Had another epic tournament that happened in the ESG Football closed beta. As always, we have the midweek tournaments and then the weekend tournaments, and this one was yet another great one. If you guys want to be a part of this greatness, check out the links down below in the description to join the Discord waiting room for ESG Football and go through the application process to get in the beta before the game drops. As always, GG's to everybody that shows up for these tournaments. It's great to see new players coming on board, showing off their skills, and as always, the OGs putting in work and balling out with numerous different variety of teams each week from the midweek tournaments and the weekend tournaments. It's great to see competition and skill at all levels. So, of course, this is the team bracket. I was on Key Green's team. We got to the semifinals against Chunga's team, and then of course Chungus defeated us and they advanced to the championship. This game, of course, was another hell match. I had back-to-back epic semifinal matches that literally made me sweat, and I felt like I was playing in a championship match in both semifinals. It was that entertaining. It was that epic of a showdown. What blew my mind is that to see the devs get eliminated by Chunga's team, it was pretty crazy that they got eliminated early. But Chunga's team was that good. I wonder if in that game, what I'm about to showcase and break down to you guys from a visual standpoint of the scheme and everything that happened during our match, I wonder if that one particular player ended up dominating against them as well. Anyways, here is the team rosters. And once again, I was on Key Green's team. Shout out to him. For those that don't know, he picked me up in the previous one, not this recent one, but the one before it, where I got into, I believe, my third championship match, and we got disqualified. So that was very unfortunate that that happened. So he picked me up again, and literally we almost got to another championship, which would have been my fourth appearance. So unfortunately, I can't get my team to the top. So hopefully next time I can. But shout out to Chunga's team for getting his team to the championship just to get pretty much blown out. Now, of course, I took the time to watch over film study with my team after we lost just to see, what we can improve on, what went wrong and things of that sort. So I did not watch the championship, but Chunga's team did end up getting pretty much swept, which was kind of disappointing to hear. Anyways, let's go ahead and get right into the film study visual breakdown for you guys to enjoy. So in the semifinal match, all we faced was a 3-1-3 defense, and the key person that pretty much killed us was the speedy defensive end who was aligned on the right side. And usually they flip the formation so he can flip to the opposite side, but for the most part, our blockers could not block him. So it doesn't matter what formation I was in. I can be in I formation. I'll tell everybody to focus on him. He would either speed outside or just blockers would just go right through and miss him, and he'd just get into the backfield and tackle. Now, during passing situations or RPO plays or trying to run to the backside, so there's times where I was in this formation trying to run an RPO or just a simple run or even out of single back, double tight end set, and just run to the left side like a stretch weak, he would end up having the right D tackle or the middle D tackle come over to his side, and then he kind of like glitch right behind him. So that way this player would get picked up, and it was so hard for these blockers to pick him up, and he would just zoom in like a stunt or loop blitz to the opposite side or to the opposite side that the run is going to, and he would pretty much blow up the running back. And it was so frustrating. So when we was doing film study, it was really interesting of how this player was playing and what they was doing on just this kind of like glitch up position spot helped him just break free from getting blocked, and because his speed helped him get to the running back, it was really effective. Now, even in the past, we had times where we tried to pass the ball, and what was an interesting thing that this guy done, which is a skill issue that, he just had the advantage over our line. What he would do is he fake outside. The right guard will kind of try to track him down, and then he would like speed strafe to the left and then hold turbo and just zoomed right past him. And it was so effective, after looking back at how, you know, the pass rush was getting to me so quickly. This dude just made a very effective way to do speed strafing past the lineman to get bypass him and get quick pressure on me. And it was a paranoia thing because I didn't have time, and it was just because of this one person killing the right guard or the left guard. Now there was times where our blockers did pick him up, and we was able to get a little bit past him, but once he disengages off a block, he would chase down the running back or so. And this guy was just an overall headache for us to go up against. Now, just in general, how this guy created his defensive end, it's so hard to get a very speed like defensive end and especially position at the defensive end spot. Now, the thing that he done that blew my mind away was on this 2 point conversion play. So we're in the red zone getting the 2 point conversion, and he done this looping blitz. So everybody was positioned how they're positioned in this formation on defense, and what he done between him and the D tackle kind of slightly went to the right, still got picked up by the center, but he was speed strafe over and then turbo right through, and he comes very quick. Now, I'm backing up like this, right? Trying to give my guys some time to do the routes or so. And by the time he hit me, I broke the tackle, right? So I'm like, okay, everything's good. Receivers kind of cross like this. Running back went upfield. And, I'm like, okay, so they're occupied. The DBs and linebackers are occupied by the receiver in the back, right? Now, as I broke this tackle, I end up stepping up and I try to take off. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have an easy 2 point conversion. All I got to do is just have these guys hold their blocks, which they did. And I believe the linebacker ended up coming down. This guy ended up getting picked up. And basically, all I had to do was just walk in. This dude had a get up animation so fast, and then his speed accommodated that, and he was able to, get off the broken sack and tackle me 1 yard away from scoring, probably within 3 yards or 5 yards of, 2 point conversion. That was the most impressive thing that I have ever seen in a game done by a user. Cause I was like, what in the fuck happened? How did I get caught? I thought it was from somebody else, but it was from the same exact person. So I broke him. He fell down when I was watching film study. I took off, and my guy's not the fastest, and obviously he's not the slowest. So he had like decent, speed rating, but I didn't have the greatest acceleration. But just moving up, I'm like, okay, I have an easy walk in. I was not expecting this guy to get up like he did and then full on sprint. Like his effort, after a mistake or something or second effort plays, he never gave up on the play, and he was the key factor for the defense that gave us a headache. Like if it wasn't for this guy to do like the loops and the stunts and the speed strafe, like how he was doing in the game, we probably would have had a much easier and higher success rate on, executing plays and things of that sort. And just because this one guy, between him and D tackle, phenomenal work. I gotta give credit where credit is due. Now I did have some success rates, running RPO, avoiding him. Sometimes they come off the edge and he just sprint right by me. I was able to avoid them sometimes. And looking at the film, usually because the pressure or like certain situations, if I'm just, avoiding the pressure from him, just running in a simple pass, I'm automatically looking down, right? Usually, depending on how everything happens, I'm running, my eyes comes down from looking, from the receivers running the routes. I'll look back up because usually I never take off, running the ball. I always try to look downfield. And just in this game, I had so many times where I, you know, avoided pressure and I'm just looking down where the first down marker is, and I try to gun for that and then see if, a person's coming to attack me, and I'm just looking, trying to get out of bounds and get the first down. But usually looking downfield, I'm able to just launch it. In this game, my whole mentality changed because of paranoia of the pressure, and I had so many missed opportunities hitting my receivers that was wide open downfield. Now, I did have moments where I did get pressure blocks or disengaged blocks, block shedding happen. I'm running, getting trailed right. And just sort of so fact, I would just still launch it. But there was times where, I just didn't have faith in my ability to launch it because getting caught and stuff. And then there's times where I just didn't throw the ball out of bounds. So I was taking like terrible moments getting sacked, and it was just frustrating. But now looking back at some of those moments, I wish I had, and I wish I played, how I usually play and launch it downfield and give my receivers opportunities to make plays. But even just doing the RPOs, I know he's gonna come off because the lineman has like an automatic, shift animation to get into a block off the left, and then after that animation plays out, they can free flow, kind of strafe back and pick up a block, which sometimes the lineman did. So if I kept it, the lineman will kind of strafe back and get the edge pressure block, which I'm supposed to make a read off. And they done a pretty good job, but it wasn't always as effective. But at times where handed it off, the right defensive end always done that strafe and then speed around back and make the tackle. So everybody else is getting blocked. There was a lot of times where receivers did not pick up the 2 blocks, but when they did, this guy always got accounted for to trail the running back and pick him up. And like I said, this was the only person that done pretty much everything and shut us down. Now, as far as our defensive scheme, we pretty much ran the same defense, but we kind of rotated spots. So I'll come down from safety, play one of the gaps. I'll switch on and off with the linebacker. He either play right side depending where the running back is. If the running back's on the right, he play left. If the running back's on the left, he play on the right gap because his focus was playing the running back. My focus was kind of key on the QB, and then sometimes we switched the roles, and then we always had the right cornerback kind of like hover over because I'll end up lurking one of the crossing routes and then kind of blitz as well on QB spot. So we had done a lot of work, just us three rotating. And then there's a lot of times where our defensive line could just couldn't get pressure. Only one person I noticed during the film study, was block shedding like crazy. But, for instance, if they ran the ball, he block shed, and he's kind of like stuck in this animation as he's block shedding. And there's a lot of times where he could make a tackle, but because he's stuck in this block shed animation, there's a certain point where he cannot react. And by the time he's able to take full control of his player, the running back would just run past him. So that was a very unfortunate for most of the times that, he was able to block shed. But he did have some times where he was able to make that tackle to react after the block shed and make a tackle in the backfield. But overall, our defense came down to us three making the play because key focus was trying to stop the running back. But the formation that they was running, which was pretty much this, or like kind of like a single receiver outside running like crossing routes. It was always short routes because a QB would either take off to the right, just scramble, or kind of like hang in there and throw a quick pass because of the pressure that we kind of sent. There was times where we kind of delayed the linebacker from the blitz wall. If you're too close, you have a delayed blitz. But if you're kind of like outside the reach where you have a red circle indicator underneath your player, you're able to free bypass the blitz wall and get pressure. So that's what we done sometimes to get pressure on the QB because the QB is not too great under pressure. And because he was throwing quick passes, I can lurk and pick him off. So that was our whole game plan on defense. And the thing about this, when they done crossing routes, I would kind of like lurk. So let's say this backside receiver done like the slant, and this receiver done the slant, and then turns it upfield. So I kind of lurk with this receiver for a bit, and then I'll kind of come down because this running back will kind of like delay block, and then he will leak out down the middle of the field. At this time, sometimes once I'm looking, the safety would do automatic, just pick up this slant, or he pick up the deep person if this backside receiver came upfield. And of course, this corner is just floating this way. And also, he's kind of containment if the running back gets like fake handoff, on RPO plays. So there was a lot that was going on just on that basic, simple concept. But how they was running it was pretty effective. And I had times where running back leaked out, and it was just a tough option for the safety to pick between the two based off my work. And then also his field awareness. He didn't have the greatest field awareness, which once again, field awareness feature in ESG football based off your rating. So let's say you have probably like a 60 to 74. Your circle rating is going to be kind of like this. So once again, for those that don't know, anything outside of this circle radius diameter around your player, you're not going to be able to see any skilled players running the routes. And of course, the bigger your rating, the higher rating that you are. So like for me, I'll have like a 90 something rating, and I can see pretty much, within 30 yards. So every time a receiver comes in, I'm able to see the receivers. So that's another thing. Some players, based off their builds, they just want speed. They don't want to focus on having like a slow DB with, little to no field awareness, but it's also based off height. So when you want speed, you want to be a smaller player. So that's another thing that we kind of ran into a problem with. I know the linebacker was also a running back, so he had a running back linebacker position player, and because all his skill sets is focused on the running back and speed, he has no defensive field awareness. So his field awareness is literally this circle. So basically, he would have to be hip to hip to see any skilled player running. So honestly, he was telling me that, anybody behind the line of scrimmage, of course you can see, but once they get like right here or so, or if a blocker comes up, the blockers act as if a skill player, and he can never see a blocker coming to him to get blocked. So that was something new that I did not know about. And that kind of hurt us too, because where he's not seeing the blocks, if he's like delay blitz, he can get picked up and not even know, even with the running back. So that was kind of mind blowing to me to find out as well in this tournament playthrough. Now, another thing that we kind of struggled on at times was just stopping the run. So the focus of the defense was me and the linebacker to make the most effort on stopping the run, because the running back had an option. He can bounce it outside depending on how the blocks form, or he can, fake outside and then just have a cutback lane. And a lot of times, most of the teams that we played against had this option just because we couldn't get the most effective block sheds. Some of the teams I played on, we had linemen that was able to block shed and get the stuff in the backfield. So, if they get the block shed, of course, the next player that the lineman's going to block is the second level. And how we was running it, one of us will focus on outside contain. The backside linebacker will be the focal point on the backside cut. So that's how we was playing the runs. Just the simple basic runs. Another thing with the run was also in the RPO plays. Obviously, the opposite side linebacker from the running back is of course going to focus on the running back, and then linebacker play the cut back lane just in case the running back choose to cut back. But also his focus point was during the RPO plays, he got to focus on the QB. Sometimes the defensive end would be there just because, like I said before, the offensive line will have this strafe left animation automatically, so it has to free up the read. But half the time, looking back at the film, our defensive end was AFK half the time. Even when they handed off and the defensive end had a freebie to get by to blow up the running back, he would just stand there because he was AFK. That was kind of frustrating to see at times. So to see AFK players during tournament games was kind of frustrating, but it is what it is on that. Another thing during film study, I don't consider myself the best. Is just I practice a lot with the speed strafing and breaking down on making tackles. So during the film study, once the running back gets like free, and pretty much this is our last hope for these DBs to pretty much keep them in front, which they done their best to do. Because once you keep them in front, the running back's just going to keep cutting back left and forth, trying to make a move on them to break free. But there was times where our guys would either just speed run past them if they're trying to get an angle, miss a tackle, cut back happens, they break free, or they wasn't used to the speed strafe like how I am, and where they don't speed strafe and break down, the running backs can just bypass them and they will miss most of the tackles. So I showed a lot of times during film study for my teammates of how I end up strafing left and right, zigzagging, which helped me break down a lot of one-on-one open tackles. Now, before I break down our supposedly game-winning drive that should have sealed us the game to go to the championship, there was another issue that we made things more difficult than it should have been, and it should have made the games go by easy. And that came down to our special teams. Our kicker missed easy extra points to win a game or a field goal kick to win a game. And that highly made me mad. It's like, bro, how do you miss this? So we have to convert a lineman or somebody with kicking abilities. And of course, one of those players that we picked obviously did not have any experience kicking the ball. But, we had preseason games. We done it in some of the actual playoff games to get him situated with practicing kicking the ball. And he done pretty well. And then it came to the semifinal match, and it was heartbreaking to see him miss easy opportunity kicks to win the game for us. Now, usually on all my builds, I would convert my player build, no matter what position I'm playing, I'll always put kicking abilities on because special teams comes in clutch for every situation, kicking and punting. That is a big thing in this game, and when it comes down to it, you need those players, and if you don't, it makes things so much more difficult. Now, I would have had it at quarterback, but because the logic right now in ESG football, they will place the quarterback as the ball holder placement for the kicker. Because logically, that makes sense. He is the best ball handler to catch the ball and place on the ground for the kicker to kick. So, obviously, I couldn't be placed at kicker, and they had to place somebody else at kicker. And unfortunately, that person did not have any experience. So, with all that practice, all the stuff that we done throughout that series to get to the semifinals, and for him, when it came down to easy kicks, oh my God, it was frustrating to see him miss easy extra points or a field goal opportunity to win the game. Now, outside of that, frustration, it came down to this game-winning drive. So we drove all the way downfield. We had two plays. It was like third and something, and then it was like fourth and whatever. Now, we ended up on this third down play, I believe. We ran a halfback direct play. At this point in time, that defensive end switched over. They flipped the formation so the right defensive end, their stud player, was able to glitch up with that other defensive end, like I showcased earlier, where he can be unblockable and break free. So we ran a halfback direct. So it's kind of like a halfback draw in a way. And of course, this guy came free as our receiver tried to help and block him. Now, looking at the film in slow-mo, it looked like the receiver got there to engage, but it didn't register a block animation. And this dude just looped right around and blew up our running back in the backfield. Now, apparently our running back lagged as soon as I handed off. And usually, 9 times out of 10, how he plays, how his vision is, he will always cut back off this player. And, when we was looking at film study, he would have had an easy touchdown. And, throughout the series, he would always make these moves, cut back lanes to break free. And it came down to this one play, one situation where, of course, the end, just came through. Our guy did not do his little cutback vision. He just ran straight because of lag, and he got blown up in the backfield. So then, now it comes down to the fourth down situation. So I have no chance outside of trying to run because how good this defensive end is. I got to just lob it up to my head top receiver, and that was my plan. Now, earlier in the series, I believe it was like the second game or so, I ran this specific play because it's my money play. And what happened is that I had my receivers run crossing routes. It's very basic, right? Sometimes DBs on the opposite side, once again, when it comes down to their field awareness, of course, they're not going to be seeing a crossing route coming to their side of the field because, once again, if they have a low field awareness rating, you're not going to see receivers coming across the field, right? So that's why I ran this specific play to give my receiver a chance for a head top play over top because I always lob a pass. DBs can never react to that properly, especially when they can't see, backside receivers coming across the field. Now, when I ran this earlier, it was effective. We ran it perfectly, probably within the same range of the yardage mark, and I just lob it up for an easy touchdown pass. Now, let's say that, this is kind of like the out of bounds, the back of the end zone, right? So, first time I ran it, he was like kind of like near the line, in front of the line before going out of bounds in the back of the end zone, was able to catch the pass. So, during this play overall, running back, his goal initially was to try to block this defensive end, but I told him just go, deep down the middle. So that's what he done. He ended up going kind of like in this route. So he's going to end up in the same spot, which gave me a higher chance to make this pass to either one of them getting there, right? So as this play was developing, what did this defensive end do, right? He done his little speed, strafe, stunt, loop blitz, whatever you want to call it, and came gunning through. Now I just had enough time to lob it. So he barely almost got to me, but he didn't. I got the ball off, and what happened? So the running back out right here, DB is right here. He's already out of position to make a play. Running back, I don't know what happened, but he kind of like, overran it, of course, and then he couldn't make a play, so he was already out of it. What this receiver done? I don't know if, he just stopped because he thought it was going to be picked, or he ran too far out of bounds, which hit the invisible barrier, which stops his player from continuously running. Because if that didn't happen, all he had to do was just run straight. DB's right here, and I would have completed the pass to him because he has a double or triple skyscraper, which has the highest jump for him to just jump up and moss head top this DB. And that was the easiest opportunity for us to win the game. But looking back at the game film, this backside slant crossing player, he ran it shorter, and then the DB was over top like this. But in slow motion, it seems like you can throw this pass, and then you never know if the DB can jump the route or stop him from scoring the touchdown. Who knows? It's kind of hard to tell, but in the moment, this is what I was looking for instead of this guy. But like I said, you look at the film study, and it's like, bro, I could have easily hit this guy and end up scoring. Possibly. It was 50-50. So that's a great thing about film study. When you look at these and then you're like, man, I should have threw this. I should have hit that receiver and this and that. But like I said, in the moment, because the game speed, you can never tell what's going to develop, what's going to happen. And as a QB, you're already anticipating, right? So this was my anticipation for me to hit this receiver coming across because we effectively done it earlier. And I know this is my go-to play for when I need a head top. Usually, I would tell him to do like a fade route out of this formation. So it's the same concept, but I would do like a play fake for the running back to fake up the gut, which would bait everybody down into the box. And then both the receivers would have, post corner fade route. And it's an easy lob pass because these guys is already half step below them. They're already beat. Advantage pass played to the receivers. So that's my other go-to money play. I feel like I should have ran this, but it was fourth down. Of course, these DBs is going to play safe no matter what. They wasn't going to give up easy touchdown corner opportunities to get beat, right? So they was keeping everything in front of them because, we had to work for the touchdown. So like I said, with this guy coming across like this, looking how kind of cushioned these guys were, probably he would have got there, but who knows if this guy would have made a tackle or not, or jumped the route to pick off the pass. So it's frustrating to end, a possible game winning situation to, advance us to the championship. But it is what it is. Everybody played their asses off. Uh, Everybody competed, and it was just an overall great competition. And this is what this game brings. It's nothing but stress, strategizing, team communication, just all the above. And that's why this game is so entertaining, and I love it. So, win or losing, it's entertaining. Of course, don't want to lose. It does get frustrating. But when you look at this stuff more in detail, if you're like more of a football minded head like me, it's really interesting of how things develop. And when you look back at film and seeing everything that happens, like how we done yesterday, it makes it really interesting to look at all these outcomes. And then it also makes you get better at your craft because you see the mistakes that you done. Like I said, I had so many times where I basically have missed so many opportunities of like RPOs or just passing if I'm rolling out. I took my eyes off from looking downfield to throw it deep, and I ended up just taking the yards that was given when I had easy touchdown opportunities. And those are things, like I said, I usually always hit those. But when the game's on the line, sometimes based off the situation, like pressure that happened throughout this game, that paranoia takes my eyes away from looking downfield. And then how good, DBs was playing coverage at the same time. It's just, there's a lot of stuff that happens. And that's why I say playing quarterback is probably one of the most hardest things to ever do in this game. Just because you're facing a bunch of users, and it makes things much more difficult compared to playing Madden College Football, where you can already anticipate how the computer AI is going to play based off coverage and how the routes is being ran. You can manipulate things like that. But when you have all users, it's a very quick thinking, and it just makes things so much more difficult. Anyways, I hope this gives you guys a better understanding from a visual standpoint. I know, once again, I cannot visually show you guys the gameplay. I wish I could to give you guys a better, breakdown of what actually happens compared to this. But this is the best option that I have visually to showcase what happens. And I hope this kind of benefits, especially the players that's currently playing in the beta. If this can help you guys better your game plan, scheme, what you can do to beat certain stuff. And as well, you guys can let me know from the beta playtesters what you guys want to see more of. And the people that's unable to play or waiting until the game drops, I hope this gives you guys a better visual of how epic this game is going to be from a strategic football IQ standpoint, strategy, team communication, just everything when it comes to the football mindset of how epic this game is going to be when it drops. But yeah, this is just something that cannot be compared to having all user skills with different skill levels of how good they are at the game, and just communicating football knowledge is just a whole different atmosphere. And that's why I love this game, and this game is just going to simply dominate over college football and Madden, honestly, in my opinion. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. More to come. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out. Peace.